走り出した想いが今でも
Of what exactly? Oh, good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Adman, and for today, I'm going to give you my first recommendation for Doujinshi. Now, for this series, rather than focusing on just individual books, I will instead be discussing entire groups of Doujinshi publishers, or circles as they're referred to. We'll talk about what series they've done, and what their preferred genre is, and highlight what I believe to be their best series. Also ahead of time, I will say that I'm not going to include any content that would be for 18 and above. Yeah, a big reason I want to talk about Doujinshi is to spread awareness that not all of it is just porn that many in the Western culture might believe it to be. There is also plenty of non-pornographic material that, in my opinion, sometimes surpasses the original. And with such formalities out of the way, let's dive right into a personal favorite of mine, the doujin circle known as Popcorn Lamp. Now, currently this group is publishing comedic parodies of Phantasy Star Online 2 and Chunibyo Demo Koi ga Shitai. However, the subject of today's talk will be on their most popular series of books. Now, in my last video, I think I made it very clear of how I felt about the second season of Haruhi Suzumiya. 8 times! 8 times! Yeah, something like that. At the time it was airing, I was studying abroad in Japan. Good thing too, because had I been anywhere near my Haruhi DVDs at home, I might have done something I would have regretted later. After I gathered the strength to watch the final episode of that god-awful storyline, I felt so sick that I needed to go to my local melon books to clear my head. It was there that I found this little treasure called Yare Yare Kyonko. Now, look at the cover, I wasn't sure what to make of it. All I knew was that they were wearing the same school uniforms as the Haruhi cast, so I figured it probably took place in the same universe. Without thinking, I just bought the thing, believing that it was a series of side stories starring a new cast of characters in the Haruhi universe. As it turns out, I was dead wrong. This book was essentially a retelling of chronologically the first 6 episodes of the first season of Haruhi, but with the characters having their gender switched around. This concept of gender swapping characters is called Seitenkan, and it's actually been used in manga for a while now, with Ranma 1/2 probably being the most popular series based on the concept. However, while that series' whole premise was Seitenkan, the idea of applying it to well-known established non-Seitenkan characters was likely popularized by the Fujoshi. You know, those female otaku who watch Gundam more for the male pilots than the actual mechs, with their images of Troa and Catra hooking up at the end. And because they hate seeing their lovely boys ending up with their canon heterosexual relationships, they would often write and draw characters with their genders switched around. Surprisingly though, this concept caught on with the rest of the otaku community, and pretty soon everyone was doing their own little gender swap takes on their favorite series. Hell, this even included manga authors who injected storylines with their characters switching genders for a few chapters, or in one case, out of the blue deciding to have their male lead cross-dress for the remainder of the manga. I'm guessing everyone just likes the idea of having a different perspective on these beloved characters, which lead to new and interesting scenarios. Heck, fate is this with Arthurian lore, and judging by the success of that character in series, it seems like the grass on the other side of the fence is very green, with cash. However, just like Saber, you need to provide an appealing character to replace a great figure like King Arthur. Luckily for the titular Kyonko, there was a lot of room for improvement. Now, I'll admit, Kyon is a pretty funny main character and good narrator for the series, and at times he could be pretty damn badass. But at the same time, I do place a lot of blame for Endless Hate on him because it took him so freaking long to say something. I would say a lot of that had to do with him being a bit of a lazy ass, which actually does become a plot point in the novels. As such, while he could be funny, at times he does come off as a little pretentious and snarky. Tooting my own horn a little bit there. His female counterpart Kyonko, while also quite a bit on the snarky side, doesn't come off quite as arrogant. Mostly because this version of the SOS Brigade is actually more insane than the source material, and therefore her remarks are far from unfounded. Yeah, the thing to remember is that this book is ultimately a parody that injects a lot of humor into the original storyline. While some of it is a little unnecessary, it doesn't deviate heavily from the original, and does tell a proper story. To add to the comedy, the quirks of each of the characters are expanded upon. Haruko is an even bigger tsundere than Haruhi. Male Nagato is more socially awkward than female Nagato. Mitsuru is an even bigger airhead than Mikuru. And while male Koizumi was ambiguously gay, female Koizumi is full on trying to sleep with Kyonko. And I honestly think all of them come out better as a result. Haruko, while still a bit of an abusive jerk at times, does show more emotions towards Kyonko than Haruhi does towards Kyon, and in turn they have much better chemistry. Same thing with the male Nagato, who comes off as more human thanks to actually showing feelings towards Kyonko. Thankfully, Mitsuru faces a lot less abuse than for Miku, and actually has a lot more hilarious scenes, especially when his future self is around. Though the funniest character definitely has to be the female Koizumi, whose constant attempts at bunking with Kyonko makes her more than just the exposition fairy of the series. All in all, I really like this retelling of the series. The art is really good, giving all of the gender-swapped characters elements of the originals while still making them very attractive. Seriously, I love Kyonko's ponytail. There's a lot more humor than the original, as I said, but it also has a proper narrative. The characters are all much more likable and at times more human than the originals. It was thanks to this series that I was reminded of what I liked about Haruhi in the first place. Sure, I'll take my hatred towards those guys who thought up Endless Hate to the grave, but I won't hate the series itself. If you can read Japanese and are a fan of this series, I would highly recommend picking this up. This book and two others collect everything that has been animated so far, minus Endless Hate thankfully, and are available digitally on melonbooks.com. Each book goes for 1,260 yen, which is about $13 US currently. Now that may seem a little pricey for something that's actually shorter than the average manga, but considering you probably saved on not buying that god-awful second season box, I think it'll be okay. It's just a great retelling from a different perspective that I'm glad I was able to experience. I'm the Adman, giving my hats off to you guys. Oh, and just in case you were wondering what those boxes back there are for, we can talk about it next time. Bye.